Kid, a lot of people have had this game scheduled and circled on their schedule. Number one, undefeated, and the reigning national champs, South Carolina Gamecocks, to take on the UConn Huskies, a sold-out XL Center since January, 15,000 strong to take this one in, including you, and we appreciate you joining, and we are so happy to showcase such quality basketball. Two quality programs here today on Fox. Sarah Kustok, Lisa Byington with you. I'm looking across the schedule on the men's and the women's college basketball side. Sarah, this is the only top 5 matchup you'll find here today, and a lot of reasons to be excited about this one.
You want to talk about a Sunday fun day? You have got it right here. Not only is this a rematch of last year's NCAA title game, but you've got two teams that have been rolling. The South Carolina Gamecocks, they are undefeated thus far this season. They have got defense, they have got depth, but they are coming into a raucous environment where UConn continues to put the pieces together under Hall of Fame coach Gino Auriemma. We have got some legendary action on the way with some very, very potent talent.
So we're looking at the starting lineup sponsored by Jeep. There's only one. You know, it's pretty familiar lineups if you follow both of these programs. UConn, as we'll get into, has dealt with some injuries, but this has been the standard starting lineup for them in the last few weeks, in the last few games. Zia Cook is having one of her best seasons. And of course, there is Aaliyah Boston, who is the reigning National Player of the Year. And a lot of people will have that matchup on their mind. Aaliyah Boston against Aaliyah Edwards at the center spot here today.
And you understand why. These are two premier players in the post, but South Carolina brings a lot when it comes to the inside presence for UConn to have to handle.
Puolani, Spurlock, Welch, Jeffrey Smith, Katie Lukanich, the officials here today from the XL Center. And the tip going to South Carolina. The last time that these two teams met in the national title game in Minneapolis. And South Carolina gets the first two. Victoria Saxton.
What a dime. How Zia Cook sees the floor or something that is so incredible, and her ability to thread needles in small spaces is something that's allowed the rest of her teammates to flourish.
Leads the team in scoring, some of the best shooting percentages, career-high shooting percentages for her here this year, Zia Cook. Dorka Juhas, the Ohio State transfer, playing in year number 2 with UConn, misses, but Aaliyah Edwards with the offensive rebound and putback.
Rebounding is going to be a factor. It is South Carolina's strength on the boards, but for UConn to be able to clean up some of those misses is going to be critical.
South Carolina dictated the pace and the tone in that national title game. The first quarter alone, you talk about rebounding, 7 offensive rebounds, 9 second chance points, forced UConn into 5 turnovers. Pace will be important for both of these teams in the first few minutes. Now 4 to shoot. Off the mark that time.
And for South Carolina, continuing to rotate and shift this UConn defense is something that is going to be impactful. On that possession, got a little bit stagnant.
There is one of the key transfers, Lou Lopez-Seneschal for UConn, out of Fairfield. And Dorka Juhas with the rejection out of the gates and lights this place on fire.
Nice job, transition defense for UConn, getting back on a South Carolina team that's going to look to run. Juhas, she's been a major factor in the starting lineup. 6'5", bring length, presence on the inside. She can also stretch it out.
It was really kind of the third post in rotation last year. She's become a starter. All 17 games, including today, she has played and started in. Fletcher's off the mark. Kiara Fletcher, who will start in the point guard spot. Zia Cook gets her first look. Raven Johnson, the talented freshman who will come off the bench for South Carolina. There's Nika Mule, leads the country in assists per game. One of the better leaders here for UConn. Team that has struggled with some injuries. Lopez-Seneschal well off the mark.
And that's some good help by Fletcher. You see the matchup of Bree Beal on Lou Lopez-Seneschal. Seneschal has been an excellent scorer. Her consistency that she has brought to UConn has been a really important piece, but Beal is a lockdown defender, that we know.
Not there for Saxton once again. And South Carolina 0 for its last 5 on the move and the push, and Mule gets fouled on the shot attempt by Fletcher.
And you mentioned tempo. Here, Nika Mule does a good job on the push, gets herself to the free throw line, not only leading the country in assists, but understanding the organization of this team. And that's going to be very critical for UConn, understanding the depth that South Carolina plays with, how many players they have to throw at you. That is certainly lacking for UConn. Gina Auriemma and this group has dealt with injuries, a lack of players. We know about some of those key players in Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd not playing today, Caroline Ducharme, but even throughout the course of the season. And so being opportunistic on the run in transition is something that, you know, the smarts and intelligence of the game, of how that tempo and pace will work, is going to factor in.
Takeaway, stepping right into the passing lane. Griffin has been so good as of late, and Aubrey Griffin gives UConn a 4-point edge.
He's got this entire crowd on their feet.
Hesitation move for Fletcher, off the glass for 2, and quickly silencing this building. South Carolina can do that to you. The average, you talk about pace, Sarah, 82 points per game. They can get up and down the floor.
I mean, that's a good play by Fletcher, the graduate senior, 4 years at Georgia Tech, just calming things down.
And a foul call, and the first to Saxton. And you look at Dawn Staley sporting the sweatshirt for the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, of course, playing in the Super Bowl. The Philly native, proud of it. Been wearing jerseys the last few games. Jalen Hurts, a jersey. The late, great Reggie White, she wore one of his jerseys.
Basketball icon and fashion icon. We'll give it all to her.
You know what? She can wear anything and make it look good, right? Aaliyah Edwards that time. And Edwards has got 4 points, 4 of the first 8 here for UConn. Feeding the post, it's Boston with the catch, and look at the white jersey surrounding it. And a turnover, and back the other way here for UConn, but it was a UConn Husky swarm immediately at the catch.
Immediate collapse on the inside, but Aaliyah Edwards was already kind of hanging there in center field, playing around the post. She's ready to double, but you've got 3 on Boston immediately on the pass. And that's what she's been seeing throughout the course of the season. That's why her number's not quite what we saw last season, but just as important and impactful for this group.
Well, this Gamecocks team, too, one of the deepest in the country that you'll find. Their second unit could arguably be a starting unit for most teams, as Mule up and over the outstretched arms, and it's a 10-4 UConn advantage.
Nika Mule has so much moxie.
Boston taking it inside. No foul call. They're going to let them play a little bit. It'll still be South Carolina basketball. First substitution, it's Raven Johnson coming off the bench.
And you look right here as Boston's trying to do something herself, almost splits through the defense, goes out of bounds. That's where the collapse, though, of Juhas and Edwards has been very tight and good.
It's Boston against Edwards, and the handoff to Raven Johnson. Her first few minutes, her first time taking on UConn in her career. Since she grew up watching some of these UConn teams, like Crystal Dangerfield is one of the players to try to emulate. Here's Beal, had 1 3-point attempt, and just as the shot clock, they will review that now to make sure it counts, but for now, it's a 2-pointer for Beal.
Felt a little late to me, but we'll be interested to see what that looks like.
Lucas Seneschal with a cutting and a walking violation there on Aubrey Griffin. And a turnover gives it right back to South Carolina.
So the things for UConn that always become important, but in particular against a team with depth and plays how South Carolina does, taking care of the basketball, taking care of the glass, not allowing many easy looks for South Carolina. And you mentioned Raven Johnson coming into the game, a redshirt freshman. She has continued to grow and flourish, but she will uptick the tempo of this game.
Lay off Raven Johnson. Give her that deep shot, it looks like. And off to Beal. Over to Cook. Zaya Cook taking it inside. The quick hands there for UConn. We got a jump ball coming. It'll be UConn basketball.
Juhas making a play once again. Fingerprints all over this one early.
4:43 left to play in the first quarter. Nice and tight between these top 5 teams. A UConn legend and recently retired Sue Bird, 2-time NCAA national champion, multi-time WNBA champion as well. Jen Rosati also in the house. All kinds of UConn former players taking this one. It was a long list, almost went 2 pages deep to watch a player like Aaliyah Edwards here today.
Stars are out on this stage, and Aaliyah Edwards came to play. You watch what she's done offensively, just working, using inside position, ability to create angles, and then defensively, she has been a menace on the inside, along with Dorka Juhas doing their best to try and slow down Aaliyah Boston. And Aaliyah Edwards, you look at those numbers, the jump that she's made this season, the responsibility that she has taken on, 9 double-doubles so far on the year, and she had just 3 prior. All were from her freshman year. She's played in every game for UConn, which has been saying a lot since only 2 individuals have done that for the Huskies, dealing with so many injuries. But her, along with Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, some of the front runners for the National Player of the Year. So it's tremendous to see them here matching up against one another.
How about coming out of that timeout? Griffin gets the and one and the foul to Bree Beal.
And you can't say enough about how good Aubrey Griffin has been for this team. Missed all of last year because of back surgery, as she uses her athleticism downhill, gets right to the basket. That's a big-time play. And especially as of late, her numbers have shot up, but overall, the things that she brings to the table for this team have been very important.
Last 5 games, Griffin has averaged about 16 points, shot about 60% from the field. Juhas trying to chase it down. Good job on her knees, by the way, keeping that dribble. On the floor, Griffin, Juhas, Lopez, Seneschal, Newell, and Edwards here for UConn. They have a lot of choices there on the bench. We talked about the injuries that they've had to deal with. And now back-to-back fouls here on Beal, who has picked up her 2nd.
Second personal foul, 4th team foul.
And you see Paige Beckers, a couple years ago as a freshman, a National Player of the Year. All kinds of injuries, not only this year, but last year as well. Paige Beckers tore her left ACL in the preseason. She will miss the entire year. AZ Fudd with a right knee injury for like the 2nd time. Sitting right next to her. Injured it in December, re-injured in January. Caroline Ducharme might be the player there on the next to AZ Fudd, who might be the next one in health-wise. She's been out with concussion protocol.
Shooters, scorers, playmakers. We're probably looking at about 60 points sitting on the bench there, but somehow the Huskies have figured out how to keep winning.
And Ducharme, you saw she was wearing the earplugs. And sometimes she's have to leave with the arenas being too loud, kind of mid-game, in concussion protocol, as we talked about. Boston battling on the offensive boards, which is typical of South Carolina. So they will get 49% offensive rebounding rate, tops in the country. You see the earplugs there for Ducharme here this afternoon.
Well, there's a lot of things that South Carolina is tops in the country at. In blocks per game, look at opponent field goal percentage, opponent scoring margin, rebounding rate, offensive rebounding rate. The list goes on and on. There's a reason why they're undefeated. Would have just 2 remaining in the country along with LSU. But another big thing is their bench. And the fact that they have 11 players that average over double figure in minutes. Dawn Staley has a lot of options to use, and that's a big jump from even last season after they won the title.
Those were the first points, 2 of Aaliyah Boston, by the way, coming at the free throw line. Newell decides to size it up from distance, and how about that? That's an XL center bounce if I've ever seen one. $15,000 strong. You can hear it primarily in the white and blue, as you would expect, in Hartford, Connecticut. But some South Carolina faithful making the trip here as well. This game has been sold out since the month of January, by the way. These fans don't care who's injured, who's going to be playing, who's not. They expect a big one here today, and Boston will take a return trip back to the free throw line.
What a move by Boston. We've got 2 players on her, understands where they're at and where the basket is at with the quickness of her reverse. That's special. Mule tries to come over to help a little bit late off that. If you could spin out of a double team and the awareness, and that's something we mentioned, Aaliyah Boston has seen throughout the course of the year. Every opponent is scheming against her how to try and not only slow her down and get the ball out of her hands. And teammates have certainly given a balance and an ability to score, but she's still putting up some very, very solid numbers.
Just recently named to be one of the top 10 picks for top center, the Lisa Leslie Award. Her and Dorka Juhas, by the way, are on that list. Special relationship, though, Leah Boston has with Asia Wilson, who was at the last game against Kentucky. Backdoor cut there for Mule and another bucket. Nika Mule now with 9 points to lead all scorers. Johnson takes her first attempt. That is why they so highly regard her. Now, since January, her minutes have gone up. About 17 or more minutes in the last 7 games for the freshman coming off the bench.
Well, you see her continue to grow into a role. A 15-footer shot like that, though, that's important to have UConn start to respect her range.
A bit cold of a start for Lopez Seneschal. Mentioned the transfer out of Fairfield. And up and down the floor, good catch there for Anihi.
And there's an example of how quickly Johnson advances the ball, sees a teammate. Juhas just lost her behind her.
Letitia Anihi averaging about 7 points, 3 rebounds off the bench. She'll put in about 17 minutes. One of those bench players that averages about 97 minutes per game and about 30 points per game, if you can believe it. A turnover. Lopez Seneschal lost it in South Carolina basketball. The Gamecocks don't play from behind very often here this year. They were behind double figures when they went to Stanford. It's the #2 team in the country. And staved that off. It was actually kind of the second group in that Stanford game that got South Carolina, started with defense, got them back into that game to only trail by 4 at halftime. Camila Cardoso has now entered the game, all 6'7". And Anihi walks with it. So another traveling violation and another turnover here for the Gamecocks. Make it 4 in the game.
And that's been a factor, the turnovers for South Carolina. Anihi, though, was working on the inside, demanding that ball, and after the collapse, just a few too many steps.
It'll be a foul on Cardoso, her first. But there is something with the look in the eye of Aubrey Griffin, who has been aggressive and taken it to the rack to make South Carolina defensively make some choices.
Well, and because she can get to the basket, the athleticism that South Carolina brings to the table, that's something that Aubrey Griffin can play with. She is a supreme athlete, and she can put you off the bounce on the attack and get to where she wants to on the floor. She's doing that early on.
A redshirt junior, she had back surgery in January of last season, had to wait 587 days to play a basketball game again. And this game, this day, this kind of atmosphere is one of the reasons why she was excited to come back.
And here's the thing, too, just for her to play freely.
UConn showing a little bit of a zone look and broken up in a turnover force. Rihanna Patterson getting on the deck.
And that's where it'll be interesting to see what UConn does in switching defenses. There are teams that have played zone against them to try and protect that paint. Right here, a nice job with the long arms, the hands getting on the floor. But that's going to be a factor just in terms even of making the Gamecocks think when they get up the floor for as quickly as they want to get into their offense, to have different looks and coverages that they're going to have to try and figure out how to operate against.
Cy Cook is the lone starter playing with the 4 bench players here for South Carolina. #1 team in the country, trailing by 7. Here's Raven Johnson. It's the screen from Cardoso. Out to Hall, who has checked in. Well off the mark. Bree Hall getting more playing time this year. Scoring a little bit more than her freshman season. One of the talented sophomores and underclassmen, learning from, of course, the senior class now. Cook takes the handoff. Cy Cook took a peek inside. Here's Hall with 4 seconds to shoot. Someone's got to pull the trigger for the Gamecocks and running into a couple UConn defenders. It will be a blocking foul. And the second on Lopez Seneschal.
A tough end of the possession, but a good heads up by Letitia Anihi here. because she realized the shot clock was winded down. And that's a concern for as many things as you look at UConn with their lack of depth, making sure you're cognizant of fouls, foul trouble, putting a team like South Carolina on the line, something that's going to factor into today.
I mean, here, 72% free throw shooter here for the season. Just testing out the rims here at XL Center. And Boston will check back in. It'll be Cook who subbed out. So now you'll see a little bit of that pressure, the South Carolina pressure. It's at UConn's practice yesterday. It's been a heavy dose of their practice time. I would pull back just a little bit, but they spent a heavy dose of practice time trying to handle the pressure that they might see.
Giving away Gino's whole practice plan?
Well, it's just saying that they worked on it. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone,
They're not
right?
going to let us in again.
Juhasz going baseline, trying to muscle up. Boston got him.
Tough play by Boston. Because not only does she have the height and the verticality, but she can move her feet quickly. Beating Juhasz to the spot as she's trying to drive. Look at her just up top. Beautiful block.
Be able to take it out, and it's Lopez Seneschal who went tumbling to the hard court. And it'll be Bree Hall's first. Kind of trying to argue her point on this play.
Well, I think first Hall's foot gets tied up with Juhasz back of her foot as she was trying to come around that screen.
Lopez Seneschal, what an important contribution and transfer she has been for UConn, in particular with the injuries that they've had. You know, Gino spoke to us yesterday, and he said, you know, when we brought Lou in, we were thinking that she'd be playing with Paige Becker, she'd be playing with AZ Fudd, and we wouldn't have to depend on her making every single shot, but that's not the case. They're depending on Lopez Seneschal to make every single shot this year.
She's almost done that. Fifth in the country, 47.5% from three in double digits in 22 of 23 games this season. Consistency.
UConn again showing this 2-3 zone. They will play some zone in spurts last year and this year. Cardoso with the catch, can't get the finish in final few seconds. Still some time to get a shot off. Lopez Seneschal launches it, goes on rush! Oh, what a way to end the first!
You said that Gino told her she has to make every shot. And that's exactly what she does right there. The bank is open even though it's a Sunday.
There's only one, the end of the first quarter. UConn with a really great showing, 25-14. Speaking of legends, Nafisa Collier joining us, Sarah Kustok and Lisa Byington with you. Now, what's it like to be back in an environment like this, in a game like this?
It's so fun. The last time I was in XL Center, I was playing on the court, so it's kind of weird to be behind the bench this time. It's so fun.
Is it interesting to watch the team and feel like you are not far removed from actually being there playing, and really just the legendary program that you are part of that continues to build?
Yeah, the last 2 years have been the weirdest because there's no players that I played with. So seeing that was just like, whoa, time is moving so fast. But it's really cool to be right behind the bench because I can hear everything Coach is saying, you know, and I see CD and all the mannerisms are the exact same as when I was here. So it really like takes you back in time. It's so cool, and they're playing really well. So it's already a super fun game.
Well, we'll keep you here for a few minutes, Nafisa.
Yeah.
I got to congratulate you on, I guess it could still be kind of a new motherhood, right?
Yeah,
Can I say that? With your daughter, Neela, born last May. So coming into this WNBA season, this will be the first full-time season you'll play as a mom. How are you going to go about handling both roles?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge figuring out what we're going to do childcare-wise, but it's so fun. The team loves her. She loves being around everybody, so it's really cool to see their interactions.
I know there's been a lot going on across the sports landscape, but WNBA free agency, it's been wild. I've been on my phone check all the time. How much are you tracking that and looking at what's going on as you guys get set for this upcoming season?
I'm on there multiple times a day, same as you, just refreshing. Is there anything new? It's been so crazy free agency already, just seeing where everyone's going. It's always really fun to see the surprises that come out.
Some creativity. She went off the bat that time of Raven Johnson. By the way, Boston picked up her first personal. And Lopez Seneschal off the mark. So you take in these two top teams. There's Sweet Johnson here on the push. And it's a blocking foul. You can count the bucket for Raven Johnson. Maybe some momentum on the South Carolina side. But to that point, give me a quick thought about some of the young talent like we see with Johnson. First start on the South Carolina side. I know it's the opponent here for you, but what impresses you about this program and the way that Dawn Staley has kind of grown this program over the years?
She's done an amazing job. I mean, I feel like someone asked me, is there going to be a new rivalry between UConn and South Carolina? And I said, maybe. They're both such great teams, and the talent that's coming out of them each year just keeps getting better and better. Yeah, I mean, you see players like Aaliyah Boston. I mean, they're just so good. They're so tall. The first thing I said when we came on here, they have such tall players with South Carolina. I didn't realize,
Here on the push, play on. Cook takes it inside, and she draws the foul that time. So an aggressive take here for South Carolina.
And Nafisa, I think when you look at this matchup, we came into it talking about the defense of South Carolina, the depth, the size they have on the inside. UConn, as you know, your alma mater has dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the course of the season, but somehow continue to keep winning. What's unique? You've been there. You've worn these jerseys. You've been in their shoes. You've been in the locker room. You've listened to Gino on the sideline, but more so when you were with him every single day. What's unique and different about playing for Connecticut and being a member of this Huskies team?
The level of expectation is set so high every single day, it forces you to become your best self. And so even when, you're plagued with injury after injury or whatever happens, throughout the course of the season, you're able to grit through because everyone is becoming their best selves. And even if, this team is bigger than UConn right now, but their want-to right now is a lot more than South Carolina's.
There's a turnover there for UConn, and you see the banners hanging even here at the XL Center. Nafisa, one of the reasons why we have you on to go big picture on some of the moves and the changes the WNBA as a league is making to try to benefit the players. You've got the player marketing agreements. I know your former teammate, Boston, with the miss there. Your former teammate, Brianna Stewart, has been active about getting charter flights here for players in the league. What progression do you see in that area for the WNBA?
We really want to. I think everyone wants it to happen. It's just logistically, how can we make it happen? We have to have all the owners and the teams make it sustainable so we can have it for more than just a one-season type of thing. So we're definitely past due in that regard. And I think we're going to keep pushing until we get where we're owed, not owed, but what we deserve as professional athletes. And to keep pushing, we need things in the media like what Stewie's doing, and we need owners to step up.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you joining us. You can go back to being a fan here in the stands, but we appreciate you also shedding some light, in particular in that area for the WNBA in the years to come.
Awesome. Good luck this upcoming season.
We'll
be watching. We're proud of you.
Thank you, guys.
Edwards makes good on the first free throw. Cardoso has picked up her second. To send Aaliyah Edwards to the free throw line. Wearing that mask in case you're not following UConn basketball. She got knocked in the head by her teammate Nika Mule in an October practice. Doesn't necessarily need the mask anymore, but maybe a la Richard Hamilton likes to continue to still wear it throughout the season.
Tough. I like it. Or she still wants to protect the moneymaker.
And
both things.
There's probably some reason to that. UHaas again, just a smothering defense in the lane by the Huskies here to begin with.
Well, and that's what's been most impressive is you look like right here, the quickness of the switches, the help. They know that they are trying to protect the rim and the basket at all costs, but they're beating South Carolina at the spots and cutting off angles on most touches.
Largest lead for UConn has been 11. Cardoso does a good job just keeping the ball high, drawing the foul that time on Edwards. Two shots coming.
Number 3, Aaliyah Edwards.
Camila Cardoso stands at 6'7", a transfer out of Syracuse. And a couple years ago was the ACC Co-Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, the ACC Freshman of the Year. Knocks in the first. But, Dawn Staley had said we need a consistent Cardoso here throughout the year.
And that's sometimes the toughest thing about players, and even players with talent, of knowing what you're going to get each and every night out. And Cardoso has been tremendous, and especially in terms of the offensive glass. But that's a factor in how players perform on a night-by-night basis.
Nika Mule being defended by Johnson. Underhanded pass to Griffin. Pulls and fires, leaves it short. Johnson with the rebound and the push. That's what Raven Johnson can do. Move it a little bit when she's in with these other Gamecock players. And the offensive glass and cleanup for Cardoso. And here comes South Carolina. You knew it was only going to be a matter of time before they build this momentum. 27-22. Mike Hill, Kim Adams, we appreciate it. 27-22, the only top 5 matchup across the college basketball landscape. That includes the men's or the women's game here today. Sarah Kustok and Lisa Byington with you. Defense here early has been key for UConn.
And they've done it starting on the inside. You see right here, collapse in the post. They've taken a lot away from Aaliyah Boston, but they're forcing tough angles and tough shots on the inside. They've been pretty good so far, too, in taking care of the glass. So off of these misses, that's a factor. They force some turnovers and miscues for South Carolina that's allowed them to get going on the run. But that is something that has to continue. South Carolina, not only are they predicated on how they play defense, but they are a potent offensive team. And Dawn Staley has seen every different defense you can imagine, so she knows how to move her pieces around to get the ball where she wants.
Dorka Juhas, you saw the 2 blocks, a centerpiece here to begin with. That defensive presence. You know, UConn outscored South Carolina in the first quarter 25-14, but South Carolina has figured some stuff out in the second. Outscoring UConn 8-2 before that bucket by Edwards.
And that, Lisa, is going to be a major factor. If Edwards, that's a shot she's improved upon, can knock down those 15-footer-ish and stretch out the defense some, that changes how UConn's offense looks.
UConn has the edge in this series, 9-3, but South Carolina has won 3 of the last 4, just barely grazing the rim on that cook offering. Here comes Nika Mule. Over to Edwards, hesitation, taking Cardoso to the right.
Really like that, Hezzy. And that's Edwards pulls her out. Why? Because she just knocked down a shot from the free throw line. So what does she do that time? She gets her defender up in the air. Explosive move.
And Cardoso playing with the 1 personal foul. Deflection there from Griffin, but still possession here for South Carolina. You see that length, 6'7", but Cardoso couldn't put it down. Ami here stays with it. It's that persistence that is so impressive by South Carolina. They get you about 18.5 offensive rebounds per game. Undefeated coming into today, 22-0 overall record, 10-0 in the SEC. We talked to Dawn Staley about just the discussion, the dialogue of staying undefeated. We know in the college women's basketball landscape, only a few programs have gone the full time undefeated. You see the block in the defense here from Raven Johnson.
So
5-second violation.
And I mean, that's just some excellent denial there by South Carolina. Doing a good job. Johnson has been face guarding Newell some, trying to make sure that UConn can't get the ball anyplace easily.
So Johnson and Cook playing in the backcourt here together. It's Cook, and from behind, Lopez Seneschal got it.
Both of these teams have such a killer instinct with nonchalant attitudes. You see this block here from behind by Lou Lopez Seneschal, doing a good job using her height, realizes the quickness of Johnson to get by her, but still recovers.
Boston, that was 1-on-4. The UConn defense, it's Griffin who emerges. She has Mule on the right side, and Cook with the hustle. It'll be UConn basketball. Zaya Cook, though, with a hustle to retreat and get back to break up that possible transition.
Really nice defensive play. And Griffin was trying to push the tempo and put pressure on in transition.
Kakanzami here trying to get the turnover. And Griffin a little bit in trouble, spins out of it, out of harm's way, finds Uhas for three. Okay, Uhas hit a couple of three-pointers. Last game against Providence was big in that way, and Aaliyah Edwards has her second.
And that's sometimes, you know, you look at games like this and how tightly contested they are. Making shots is a big thing. You've got a lot of shooting on the bench for UConn. You look at them leading the country in field goal percentage, second in three-point percentage, but some of that is sitting on the bench in sweats.
A lot of that is sitting on the bench in sweats.
Trying to be kind.
Point tally, if you talk to Gino Oriema, it's basketball IQ as well. When you talk about Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd in particular.
Well, those are two of the best players in the country. I mean, it's hard to fill the gaps in the roles of what they provided.
You know, it's interesting when the media was talking to both head coaches. Gino Oriema, because of those missing players, didn't want to concede that they're the underdog coming into today. Dawn Staley didn't want to concede that they were the favorite coming into today. You know, Coach Staley's statement, if we win, it's going to be because UConn was without those injured players, as Boston takes the triple try. Gino Oriema didn't want to accept the underdog tag because then he said that makes it seem like we're not capable of winning a game like this. As Cook from the mid-range. Battling for it. Cardoso, and more second chance points here for South Carolina.
When you come to UConn, you expect to win. When you come to South Carolina, you expect to win. There's not a whole lot more to it. And both of these teams step on the floor with expectations to win.
Mule to Uhas. Now 8 to shoot. Uhas up against Boston. And Aaliyah Boston wrapping her up to Griffin. And here got a piece. Griffin had to put it up. And there is some of that South Carolina defense that we've been used to seeing in the Dawn Staley era.
You said it, Lisa B. That's what we were touting. Depth and defense, some of the greatest strengths for South Carolina. And this is where you're starting to see it in this second quarter. And, you know, overall, it's the inside-outside game to go along with it. For as much as they have size, they have wings and guards that can defend you and pressure you.
UConn or South Carolina will call the timeout. A 31-26 advantage. You know, South Carolina had a brief lead in this game, scored the first bucket of the game, but UConn has led by as many as 11. And you talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Both of these head coaches are all for testing their programs and their teams throughout the regular season with a tough non-conference schedule. I mentioned that UConn has known time and time again, a few times, what it's like to go through an entire season undefeated. But you kind of put yourself in a different sort of category if you can accomplish that goal. Now, that is not the focus, not the goal of Dawn Staley and South Carolina. It has been talked about, it has been mentioned once or twice, but breaking it down into segments, right, of the season, the preseason, the regular season, the NCAA tournament, if you will. You see the undefeated seasons in women's college basketball history. Hasn't been done since that 2016 team.
I did find it interesting, though. We're talking to Coach Staley before the game. You had asked her about that, and she said last year, you know, they had 2 losses, saying, oh, that was maybe good for the team. Maybe it's good for you to learn from a loss. She said, I don't think that matters with this team. That ain't it. It's not what they need. Would they handle a loss? Yes.
Oh, what a battle. Ami here. First of all, she split the double team, missed the shot, and then stayed with it, get the offensive rebound, and draw the foul.
Tremendous play by Ami here. She has done some work here. Look at her just turning, facing up, using that size, and like you said, split through the defense to try and get that shot off. She's showing a strength and a finesse to her game and how she reads things, and I think that's going to be just with her, the patience. She's a senior. She can play 1 through 5, so she has an ability to be versatile on the floor. And you're seeing a lot of that here today on the offensive end.
If this is one of the worst-case scenarios here for UConn, Edwards has to sit on the bench. She's picked up her 3rd personal. We talked to Gino about that. He had played her with the 2 personals. How much do you trust a player in the first half to play him with 2 personals? And with the lack of depth, it's foul trouble that you can't get into.
However, 3 minutes left here in the second quarter. You've got a 4-point lead. You could slow things down a little bit, make sure you're taking care of the ball, getting quality possessions, trying not to put yourself in a bad way on the other end.
It'll be Cook picking up the personal. A little too much reach and hand contact for Katie Lukinich's liking.
Cook went down. I think she might have gotten hit in the face. Let's take a look. Yeah, left shoulder of Lopez Seneschal goes right into Cook's jaw.
So contact above the shoulders. Puolani, Spurlock, Welsh, and Jeffrey Smith and Katie Lukinich. We'll take a look at this at the monitor as Cook trying to wipe off that blood a little bit.
Officials just came over looking for an unobserved contact foul. So something that they didn't see while play was taking place here. What I'm uncertain on is if they could then call the foul after the fact if they go back to the review of this play.
Zaya Cook, so important, one of the seniors here on this team, part of the first #1 signing class here for South Carolina. Me here, Beal, Boston, Cook. You add in Olivia Thompson. You ask anyone on South Carolina's side, and they said, you know, that goal of that class, and they've established so much, they become committed to each other, is to win national championships with an S, multiple national championships with a chance to do it again this year and repeat.
You do it once, you taste it, and you want to do it again. And to think about what Dawn Staley has done for this program, continuing to build, but that's a part of it. And this South Carolina team has all the pieces. We talk about not only depth, but they have experience, and they have individuals who have felt it, who've been there. They returned 4 of their 5 starters from last year.
Puolani, Spurlock, Welsh, Jeffrey Smith, and Katie Lukinich. Looks like a decision is made. Go over to explain it here to the head coaches. That contact to the head is pretty obvious here to me. All right, so Jeffrey Smith came over and said that it's a common foul. It stands, and they viewed it as incidental contact on that play. Blood and everything there for Zaya Cook. "15 seconds here to shoot. Juhas looking for that handoff, picks up her dribble. Quick hands there for Cook to try to break it up. Now 6 to shoot. Lopez Seneschal. The left hand leaning in. That little pump fake goes high glass from the baseline. What a move.
At the end of her dribble, tough shot, using the length. And Cook did a great job getting over the top of that screen initially.
And you hear the chants of Lou here with this UConn-friendly crowd here at the XL Center. 15,000 plus. Sold out since January to watch this top 5 matchup. Post to post, a little high-low. Boston to Cardoso. You see that pressure defense here in the half court. South Carolina's going to bring a Juhas with the pull-up. Patterson was battling for it. It'll be South Carolina basketball.
And this is where shot selection, as I mentioned, becomes even more important. If you're going to quick shoot, make sure that you're doing it within the rhythm of the offense that allows you to get back set up here in the zone that UConn's been working with.
Johnson has played a heavy dose here in the first half, and she gets that one, the soft touch, to drop. And Johnson's got 7 points.
And Johnson still working to find consistency with her three-point shot, but right there around the free throw line, she's knocked those down.
Johnson's played 14 minutes in the first half. Kira Fletcher, who's the starter at the point guard spot, has played 4 minutes so far for South Carolina in the first half. Approaching about a minute to play. Single digits on the timer. Here goes Griffin. Wow, just smothered, but it's a foul call on a knee here.
Nice take by Aubrey Griffin, going right through the defense. Shot clock was winded down and just making something happen. Me here with some body up top. And you can't say enough about Aubrey Griffin. What she brings to the table for the Huskies, not only what she's been doing as of recently, but throughout the course of this season. A key factor for why they're sitting where they are.
UConn, for the most part here today, has made good on their free throw opportunities. 9 of 12, though, after that miss. Make it 10 of 13 here in the first half. Just above 75%. A lead that was once as many as 11 here for UConn. South Carolina with a 3 with a chance to tie. Final few seconds here of this first half. Knee here, the post touch, Cardoso. And you see that double team coming once again, and UConn is whistled for the foul.
Take a look here. Yeah, see, Juhas gets underneath that landing space. And she tried to pull her arm back. She had her arm over up top of Cardoso. But it's getting underneath where her legs were at and where her positioning was.
Such a tough cover. Camila Cardoso standing at 6'7". And pursuing the offensive glass.
She's light on her feet, too. She can move.
Lead is cut to 2. South Carolina with a chance to take the lead. 10-second differential between game and shot clock. Boston with the handoff to Cook. 4 seconds to shoot. Zaya Cook off the mark, and there is Cardoso with the offensive rebound and put back to tie it at 34.
14th second chance point.
Griffin for the lead in the final few seconds, and isn't that fitting? 2 proud programs. Each have won multiple national championships, a top 5 matchup, and we're locked at 34.
Just what we asked for, Lisa B. This has been tremendous atmosphere, competitive nature. UConn set the tone early. They have done an excellent job hanging here with the South Carolina team as we are all tied up.
Hartford, Connecticut, a top 5 matchup between the defending national champs, #1 ranked South Carolina against #5 UConn. And the first half stats brought to you by Jeep. You see rebounds, a +11 advantage for South Carolina over UConn. Second chance points is a +10. It's Sarah Kustok and Lisa Byington with you to bring this top 5 matchup to you here on Fox. Well, after a slow start in the first quarter here for South Carolina, you could say with the second chance points, holding UConn to 9 points in the second quarter, things are kind of trending in the South Carolina direction for the second half.
Trending in a way that South Carolina plays at. It's very characteristic of them to be able to capitalize on the offensive glass. You saw those 24 bench points to go along with it. They did all the things in terms of how they played that they wanted to. The size they used on the inside, their ability to not only crash the glass, but also force tough shots against UConn defensively. They were more consistent in where they were putting the ball on the floor. And I think overall for Dawn Staley, the understanding of getting her girls to really just embrace this environment. They play in this at home in Columbia. They are used to a raucous crowd with a packed house, but most of the time those fans are cheering for them. So I think sometimes early on, and UConn did an excellent job in setting the tone early, how they were playing, and the sharpness that they brought to the table. But you saw South Carolina start to settle in that second quarter.
You saw the sellout. This game has been sold out since January, the first time for a women's game since 2017. And you'll notice the throwback uniforms. I know some of the UConn faithful have noticed that in the first half. And out of the gate, South Carolina retakes the advantage since it was 2-0 in this game.
Quick backdoor cut. And that's where you start to watch for UConn. How do they maintain the level of intensity they're playing at against a South Carolina team that can come at you in waves?
Leah Edwards with the mid-range, a little bit too strong, and an empty possession on the first possession in the third quarter.
And one more thing in that second quarter with the defense by South Carolina, it was also the shot quality they were forcing out of UConn that helped to keep them under 28% from the field in that frame.
Here's Cook again, had the opening bucket to start the third, a little bit short on that three-point attempt, but another opportunity, generating more possessions. Interesting to note that Raven Johnson starting this third quarter in the second half here for South Carolina. Vera Fletcher, who began this game as a starter, in her 21st start of this season, only played 4 minutes here so far.
And Johnson has been a steady build of how she has grown into her role. She has started 2 games in place of Fletcher throughout the course of the season, but you saw how impactful she was, more so too just how South Carolina was operating as a whole.
Edwards blew right past the South Carolina defense for her first 2 of the second half. Cook with that hesitation. Boston with the cleanup job. And Aaliyah Boston, if you can believe it, her first field goal of the day. 3 of 4 from the foul line to accumulate her points. Tough challenge there by the South Carolina defense. UConn gets another opportunity.
Bree Beal is always putting up a tough challenge.
Pump fake there for Uhas, and I think a foul on the penetration before the shot. It'll go against Saxton.
Similar to what we saw in the first quarter, the start of this game, the ability for UConn to move and shift the South Carolina defense. Some of that comes through cutting, through penetration, but also with passing. They need to keep moving the basketball and try and find these seams.
Backdoor cut. It's Edwards for 2. Give the assist to Uhas. And we're tied again at 38.
There's spacing, and that's where UConn can find some of those windows to have better opportunities around the basket.
UConn played 5 players in the first half as Boston kind of muscles her way in for that 2. 40-38 advantage. Boston now with 7 points. As I mentioned, her second field goal. You see her numbers there, 2 for 7 on the day. Neal takes the contact and the handoff. Takes a peek inside. And broken up that time by Saxton.
And I think Rule had her, as she's saying, my bad, the pass just a little bit low. Needed to get it over the top. And that's been another factor. I mean, UConn just 3 assists on the day. They're 3rd in the country, averaging over 20 assists per game.
And South Carolina not too shabby either. They average about 16 and a half per game. Here comes Mule on the push. Lopez Seneschal has been quiet based on her standards. 7 points, 2 of 7 shooting. Cook a little Euro. Likes that as a go-to move. Kind of a slower start for both of these teams to open up the third quarter. Uhas going up against Boston and gets it to drop. And Boston a little bit slow to get up. Five ties two different lead changes between these two top 5 programs. Cook with the pump fake, heads baseline, and there's another lead change. South Carolina up 42-40. Cook, who averages 15 points per game, she's at 5. Boston, who averages just shy of 13 points per game, she's at 7 here for the game. Taking it hard to the hoop. Nika Mule, so tough.
Well, she's tough, and she also reads a defender well. She caught Johnson flat-footed for a second and just blows right by her.
11 points from Mule. Edwards with 14. Those are your double-figure scores on the UConn side. Here's Johnson. Throws it up, and a scramble for the basketball. You got a jump ball. We'll head back the other way. Cardoso checks back in. She had been the game's leading scorer with her 11 points in the first half. Immediate impact of her off the bench. I mentioned that UConn played 6 players in the first half, and really Patterson was about 6 minutes. So they've been riding. Patterson has checked back in for UConn. They've been riding their starters. No different from the way they've had to operate with injuries. 6 different starting lineups. 8 players available for UConn here today. And another jump ball call. Be South Carolina basketball. Well, we're midway through the third quarter, still tied at 42. Sue Bird, a little selfie. It's going to be fun to get for those UConn fans. And I know Sue Bird appreciates the throwback jerseys that we're seeing today. You know, she was on the 2002 National Championship team. Some of the other notables, of course, Swing Cash, Diana Taurasi, Ashley Battle is also here. When undefeated, they won every game by double digits in the 3rd national title in program history. You know, the story with this team, of course, they lost the previous year to Notre Dame in the semis, and then the next year determined and went all the way undefeated. And so we talked to Gino Auriemma about this team, handling this environment, with this crowd, with all of the program's legends watching. And he said, I'm not sure how we're going to handle it come today, but I do know that this team came to me and asked for this day to wear those throwback jerseys against South Carolina this afternoon.
There are just certain things about these individuals and make them who they are, both as individual players, but also collectively, that are elite. And they understand what this stage is. They understand in the big picture the importance of this game. And to me, I love that. That was part of the legacy of why they wanted to be a part of this organization.
Cardoso immediately kicks it out to Zaya Cook, who gets a post touch there to Boston. That double team coming once again. She wiggles her way out of it, pursues the miss, puts it back. That's a National Player of the Year move right there.
In the pursuit is one thing, and the effort putting in, but it's also the mechanics, how she goes about it, trying to get the shot off. UConn's doing a good job at the double by Lopez Seneschal, but she just stays with the play. Her ability to body and strength through finishing through contact. I mean, that is just a monster play. Also in a game that is so tight, and we continue to talk about second chance points for South Carolina, but that's something that weighs on you. You force a miss, you do a nice job defensively, but without the ability to finish off a possession, that can fatigue you both physically and mentally.
So far, you know, going into halftime, it was a win for South Carolina with Aaliyah Boston, by the way, 0 for 5 with just 3 points going into the halftime locker room.
That's still been the difference with this team. She doesn't need to put up any monster numbers. The gravity she has on the floor opens things up for her teammates.
Ooh, what a move there by Griffin. Pump fake and one! Fooled the whole Gamecocks defense.
Okay, Aubrey Griffin, we see you with the fake. Look at this little hezzy. Cross, finish. That's a dagger to the basket. She's got lightning speed, explosiveness, athleticism. She embraces that contact and holds it on one side, still finishes. We've been talking about her throughout the course of this one and just how impactful she's been for this Huskies team. sitting 21-2, and there is an example of what she brings to the table.
I love it. The upperclassmen on both sides for both teams making some big plays. Boston with the and one, Griffin with the answer. Inside 4 minutes left to play in the third quarter. Johnson, they're giving her that shot all day long. That one rolls out. And Johnson doesn't have many attempts from three. Just a 20% three-point shooter for the season. Post touch for UConn. Challenging Boston, that turnaround short.
And for as much as we're talking about the leaner numbers for Boston just here today, she brings just as much to the defensive side as she does offensively. That is such a major factor in why South Carolina has the defense that they do.
And coming over, Johnson's going to have a couple free throws coming. Each time it seems like South Carolina gets a paint touch, there's about 2 or 3 white jerseys surrounding. Patterson thought that she had it clean. It'll be her second. We're keeping an eye here on the foul situation, in particular for UConn. They've only played 6 players. So you've got 2 for Mule, 3 for Lopez Seneschal, 3 for Edwards.
And to put in perspective, UConn has 8 available players, and South Carolina has already played 9 players. And they will regularly play as many as 11 in their rotation.
Griffin this time on the left side. Cardoso rejects her. Not today, says the junior transfer.
You go from Boston, Saxton, Cardozo. I mean, look at this tracking, the timing, her ability to stay vertical. And we mentioned this earlier, the mobility she brings with that length and size is something that's such a challenge for opponents.
2 seconds now to shoot. Lopez Seneschal throws it up. Remember, she had that heave-ho at the end of the first quarter here today when high glass that set this building on fire. Johnson, what a move and what a pass. And what a finish. Cardoso in double figures. 13 points, her first bucket of the second half, and forcing a turnover.
And that's where South Carolina can get you if it's on the run in transition, whether it's forcing a turnover or off a missed shot. Cardozo off that play, Griffin did everything she could to push her underneath the basket, and she just used her size to finish.
Boston with the handoff to Johnson. Again, Johnson starting the third quarter. She came off the bench at the start of this game for South Carolina. Now inside 2 minutes. Johnson with the feed. Cardoso with the finish.
And what can you do with that? In the set there, you love that Boston is pulled out a little bit to pull out the bigger defender. And because of that, South Carolina just needed their other big on the inside, utilizing that size. 6-point lead here as we closing out.
Number 1 team in the country, South Carolina, looking to improve to 23-0 on the road against arguably the most hostile environment they've faced here this year, approaching history. They've won 28, trying to tie the school record over multiple seasons, 29 straight. The last loss against Kentucky in the SEC Tournament Championship, and they've been dominating. Look at that, almost an average margin of victory by 33 points. The closest game was at Stanford. And the number 2 Cardinal took them to overtime. And that was early in the season, November, where they won by 5.
Well, you look at the numbers and you understand why. I mean, where they rank in the country in so many different categories. And a lot of this we're looking at deals with the defensive side of things. But offensively, their ability with their size to crash the offensive glass, to get second chance opportunities, things become a possession game, and they understand how to use and dictate that tempo as you're looking at the one who runs it all, Dawn Staley. I mean, one of the most decorated players in U.S. basketball history, and her personality, to me, carries over into how this team plays, and done tremendous things with this program. But in this group in particular, how they fit together is something that's been really impressive.
Going about it her way. Cardozo with the challenge. Aaliyah Edwards with the answer. Three now on Cardozo.
Tough play here by Edwards. Pivot foot is there on the right, puts the ball down. It's a strong play going from the left block all the way across the paint to the right side. Talk about Aaliyah Edwards as a National Player of the Year candidate. 17 points. She has just 2 rebounds. Did get into a little bit of foul trouble there at the end of the first half. She is a factor.
Johnson. They give her the three-pointer in the mid-range. Let's see if they count the bucket. They're going to talk about it.
Just want to see if this is on Newell or on Edwards.
A lot to sort out here. Looks like the foul will go to Edwards. That is her 4th, which is huge. It's no basket. They wave off the basket. And Edwards trying to plead her point.
And the call was as she wrapped around, so she was holding there on the block out.
So no basket, 4 fouls on Edwards, and she will have to sit. Likely through the third quarter. It'll be interesting when Gino Auriemma reinserts her in this lineup. And here has just checked in, and a foul away from the basket. It's Patterson, the freshman, wrapping up with Boston. And Ayanna Patterson now has 3 personal fouls. And again, we're tracking the foul situation for Gino Auriemma, who, as we've mentioned time and time again, they get sick of hearing it, but it is a storyline. They've only played 6 players. And now at least 3 players with 3 or more fouls as Boston takes advantage of the out of bounds.
And there's a balance in knowing and getting the feel for how physical you can play, but not being overly aggressive.
Coaching yet another double-double. Leah Boston with 75 career double-doubles. Patterson gonna have to fill that void here for UConn. The final few seconds here of this third quarter. Newell with the kick out to Juhas, 4-3. Second opportunity. Hustle for it. It'll be UConn basketball. I love that hustle with both of those players, though. You got Mule and Raven Johnson chasing after it.
I understand what this moment means and how important every possession is.
Lopez Seneca.
What a great little play there coming out of the sideline. Get it to your shooter.
With 15,000 on their feet, the block from Patterson. UConn trying to make a push. Couldn't get a shot off before the quarter clock expired. They'll wave that off. And 3 complete quarters. The #1 team in the country has a 3-point edge as we head to the final 10.
Well, this is tightly matched, in South Carolina early on in the third quarter was going at it in the post, but UConn, the home team, is taking advantage here at the end, cutting this one to a close.
Sold out XL Center to watch a top 5 matchup, the only one in college basketball on the men's or the women's side in the country here today. Sarah Kustok, Lisa Byington with you. You see the scoring by quarter. UConn jumped out with the highest scoring first quarter, but South Carolina has responded, and in particular in the third, Aaliyah Boston.
The reigning National Player of the Year. She's gotten the job done on both ends. You see her presence in protecting the rim, and she's attacking the basket. She's been getting there with some ease. Some of the shots not falling through, but she's continued to stay with it. Big part of the second chance opportunities for South Carolina in that third quarter have come through Boston.
And you see her numbers, 9 points of those 12 coming in the third quarter. 5 rebounds of those 8 for the game have come in the third quarter.
And also her presence has helped put Aaliyah Edwards in some foul trouble.
And another 5-second call, so that's the second that we've seen here today. Sarah Kustok, Lisa Byington with you. And Gino Auriemma had talked to us about scoring 33 points in the first quarter against Tennessee. The hot start like they did again here today. Can the fatigue, can the horses bring them through to the finish? South Carolina, one of the deepest teams in the country to go up against. Johnson given that shot. And a foul on a knee here.
Great job by Ayanna Patterson with the block out. The thing to remember, though, is we go on here in the fourth quarter. Raven Johnson missing some of these three-point looks that UConn is very much willing to concede, part of the game plan. Long rebounds can come from that.
And me here trying to get it right back. Nearly did. It'll be UConn basketball. You mentioned Patterson, who begins the fourth quarter here for UConn. That means Aaliyah Edwards still sitting on the bench to begin the fourth here for the Huskies with those 4 personal fouls. And she leads the way. She's the game high scorer with 17 points.
South Carolina tremendous, not only at pressuring the basketball, but you've been seeing it get in passing lanes.
Lopez Seneschal, how about that pivot move? It'll be South Carolina basketball. Johnson the whole way here in the second half. 26 minutes that she's played here today. Knee here. Back over to Johnson. All kinds of space. Got knocked down that shot. UConn continues to give it to her. Boston gets fouled on the putback.
And that's the tough part again, because if those shots come off, there's a confidence for South Carolina that their bigs are going to be able to clean that up with another look, another opportunity. Look right here, Boston. I mean, battling through 2-3 white jerseys to get herself to the free throw line.
Systematically, you feel like South Carolina just trying to wear down this UConn team.
Well, because relatively speaking, the fact that it's a 54-50 game in some ways for UConn and Gina, you got to feel pretty good about that. They've defended well. Of course, the boards are a major factor in this, but it is not easy to keep South Carolina off of that. For Dawn Staley, her team knows how to win in different ways, and they absolutely can grind it out against you.
Five-point edge. Lopez Seneschal, Patty bucket and one.
Lopez Seneschal on the attack, a straight line drive, taking advantage of the fact, look at how attached everyone on South Carolina is to the perimeter and to the shooters. And whether it's just trying to put pressure in the lanes and on the ball, which we've seen a lot of, that has opened things up and created spacing for UConn.
The second to Zaya Cook. And Lopez Seneschal now with 12 points. Right behind Edwards, 17 on the UConn side.
So UConn's pretty much been playing a boxing one with Mulan Cook.
Wide open look, South Carolina. Bree Beal drains misses the three-pointer. They were 0 for 11 before that make.
Beal only takes a couple three-pointers a game, but she's been shooting 40% this year. That's a career high for her. And a big knockdown as she had a lot of room.
The first three-point make here for South Carolina, and Ami here draws her third personal foul. How long do you keep Edwards on the bench if you're Gino Oriema?
You're still a two-possession game here. So I think once it goes to a three-possession game, a four-possession game, that's where you have to start looking at the clock, score, timing.
Backdoor cut. Griffin with the catch. Mule saw it all the way. Only Nika Mule's second assist of the game for a player that leads the country in that category. Almost 9 assists she averages. Three-point edge here for South Carolina. Off the fingertips. They concede that three, and Johnson knocks it down in the eye of the UConn D.
And credit to Raven Johnson and to how South Carolina is playing. You still have got to take those open looks in terms of functioning against the UConn defense.
South Carolina team, as we showed you, has won 28 straight coming into today. Undefeated, defending national champion. Looking to win in one of the hostile environments, the most hostile environment that they've played in all season long. And Patterson gives it up.
And she picked it up early. I think she felt like she could have had Griffin there on the backdoor cut. Against South Carolina, overplaying some there on the wings. They've created some good pressure.
And here's your answer. Edwards checking in with 6:50 left to play in this game. You gotta wonder if Gino was trying to answer the big lineup. Cardozo had just checked in for South Carolina, pairing up with Boston there in the front court. UConn's got to add some size. Johnson once again. Can't go back to back, and the rebound to Lopez Seneschal. In and out dribble against Johnson. Oh, wow, that Hezzy gave her all the space she needed.
My goodness.
This crowd trying to act like a sixth player here for UConn, or rather maybe a seventh player, considering the circumstances. Cardozo, how about a second opportunity? How about a third? Draws the foul.
That's the toughness of trying to keep South Carolina off the glass. At some point, though, it's about moving bodies. And right here, Boston puts it up, but the high reach, this is where Cardozo does such an impressive job just continuing to keep it up high. She's already got positioned right underneath the basket. And at that point, there's not a whole lot you could do if you're UConn.
So Lopez Seneschal now with 4 personals to go with Aaliyah Edwards 4 personals. And there's your foul trouble. Mule kicks it over to Griffin. Pump fake for Edwards, and she gets the layup.
Yeah, Aaliyah Edwards made it look like Cardozo was standing still. And that's where, with the spacing you saw on the floor, 5-out action, take advantage with your athleticism and quickness.
Inside 5.5 left to play. Another classic brewing between South Carolina and UConn this afternoon. A top 5 matchup on Fox. Spin move for Boston out there. The tap out to Beal. South Carolina will let some time tick. Johnson looks over to Dawn Staley. And pulls up from mid-range. freshman can't knock it down.
UConn is okay with Raven Johnson taking perimeter shots. Obviously the three-pointers, but they're still challenging her on this stage to hit with consistency.
Edwards with the miss. Lopez Seneschal. Replay on.
Do you think the crowd agreed with that?
I can't tell. Let's ask 15,000 of UConn's closest friends what they feel about that no call.
You know what? This is physical. This is a chippy game. This is everything you want.
Receives the pass. And Leah Boston, you talk about the systematic way that South Carolina operates, and she's leading the charge.
Well, and it's important for South Carolina. They want to get in the post anyway. They play through the post, but you've got Edwards in foul trouble. That's exactly what you want to do. Keep feeding the inside. Aaliyah Boston, 16 points, 9 rebounds already on the day.
And think of the impressions that both of these elite programs are leaving on little fans like this who are taking this one in from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. 65-59 with 4 minutes and some change left to play in this one. A top 5 matchup. South Carolina on a 28-game win streak. Their last loss 336 days ago in last year's SEC championship game. Gave up a 15-point lead to Kentucky. And the three-pointer with 4.2 seconds remaining was the difference, losing 64-62. They only lost twice last year in pursuit of that national championship. The other loss, the SEC opener to Missouri, and you and I had a chance to talk to Dawn Staley. You can learn from losses, right, is what she told us. And certainly those 2 losses last year with, let's be honest, a group that is very similar from last year to this year with South Carolina. And learning how to take a game-by-game mentality. And we got a technical foul on Gino Auriemma, who has walked all the way out on the court. We also had a water bottle kind of flying out into the court.
Where did that water bottle come from?
I have no idea, unless it came from Gino. You know, watch the top of your screen here on the left. Yeah, it did come from Gino as he slammed the water bottle on the court. You know, our heads were turned watching the action. Really, the action was there on the sideline. Boston now a 79% shooter. Knocks down the technical free throw. That's a huge call in a tight game like this with just about 4 minutes left to play.
And what I'm trying to decipher is what he was upset about a lack of a foul call.
Well, we know he wasn't happy in that Tennessee game with some of the officiating. And he told us he felt like if it got to be a physical natured game, and we've talked about the foul trouble, would certainly not favor UConn here today. 2 players with 4 fouls, Lopez Seneschal and Edwards. Johnson from around that screen decides to take it inside. Gives it up to Boston from the baseline in that soft touch. Aaliyah Boston now with 20 points.
And that's a really good decision by Raven Johnson. She had that wide open three-point look, but gets to a space on the floor, and Boston just replaces her on the baseline.
Now it's the largest lead of the game here for South Carolina, plus 10. And Lopez Seneschal, a long 2-pointer.
Man, if there's ever a player you can count on, it is Lopez Seneschal. She's come through with some big shots. The consistency, not only in her accuracy of making them, but she has got everything in the bag and scored all 3 levels.
UConn outscored South Carolina in the first quarter, but that's been it. The Gamecocks have responded in the second, the third, and so far here in the fourth. Boston, they'll give up the 3, and just the 3rd three-point make of the game for South Carolina.
And just the 2nd of the season for Aaliyah Boston. That is not necessarily her forte, but talk about a big one.
And she's only attempted 14 for the season. Edwards takes it, and Cardozo is whistled for her 4th personal.
Take a look right here. The mobility of Edwards, nice scoop underneath the basket to get herself to the line. It has been so much fun to watch her game grow as we see Cardozo now with 4 fouls.
Yeah, Edwards has been playing with 3 personals or 4 personals for a majority here of this second half. Knocks down the first.
And she's coming off of a couple games that weren't quite to the standard of which she probably expected from herself, what she was giving this UConn team through the season. And she's been excellent.
She got to go up against Tina Charles in practice yesterday. How about that? How do you defend Aaliyah Boston? Well, let's bring in Tina Charles to practice to give you kind of a good look at it. And yes, she signed all the papers to make it legal, for those wondering. Boston muscles her way in. She's got 25 points. Another double-double for her. The 25 to go with her 10 rebounds. 76 career double-doubles for Boston. Lopez Seneschal, that side-step move goes high glass, found the window perfectly.
And does it over Aaliyah Boston. Her ability to create space cuts this to a 10-point deficit. Time is winding down for UConn, so at some point you got to start thinking about fouling.
And Mule does exactly that. She heard you. That's her third. Stops the clock with 1:41 left to play. Nika Mule, I had mentioned this. Only 2 assists for Nika Mule in the game. 5 assists for a UConn team that's third in the country in assists per game. Perhaps credit, you know, the South Carolina defense to take them out of their normal offensive rhythm. Because that's just a staggering offensive number.
And I think at first that was called as UConn ball. Aaliyah Edwards, it may still be. I'm not sure if they're taking a look at it again.
Under 2 minutes they can with a possession question, so we'll go to the monitor.
I think it will be South Carolina ball. It looks like it was Edwards who last tipped that in denial. But an important thing to remember too, if UConn at this point is fouling, look at who's on the floor for them and who you need to foul. Both Edwards and Lopez Seneschal both have 4 fouls. Nika Mule has 3. You have just 1 for Griffin and 1 for Juhas. So those are the 2 players that you want to foul. If so, I don't think Boston got a touch on that after Edwards hit it. But I wear contacts, and
my vision's getting worse and worse.
So,
Pualani, Spurlock, Welsh, Jeffrey Smith, Katie Lukanich have been our officials here this afternoon. We hope you really enjoyed this matchup. It's been a fun one. Back and forth between 2 of the top 5 teams in the country. I walked into this building at about, we had tip just after noon Eastern, and there were already fans lining up at about 9:15 a.m. Eastern. We're trying to take this one in. Here's another look at it, what they're at the monitor for. The possession, it's a big call. Oh. From that angle.
It almost looked like Boston got it second. So Edwards with the deflection first, but it almost looked like the right hand of Boston might have got it before it went out of bounds.
Yeah, that angle definitely tells a different story of this play here for sure. Gives kind of a free timeout for both of these head coaches and for both of these teams. With South Carolina with a 10-point edge. 3 timeouts left for the Gamecocks. 1 timeout left for the Huskies. Last time that these 2 teams met, of course, as we've talked about, the national title game last year. It'll be UConn basketball. So the officials seem to see that last angle that we showed you that told a different story. Don't be South Carolina. Wait, I was going to say, for a second, Johnson was standing out of bounds, but they had pointed UConn basketball. So officially, for the UConn basketball with Edwards taking it out.
So Raven Johnson face guarding Nika Mule. You want to keep it out of her hands to organize thing and run whatever set and play that UConn had initially intended.
Edwards surveying.
A lot of time is coming off the clock.
Yeah, she's got to make a decision. Challenges Cardoso, and that's number 5. We might have had a tap, too, to go on top of it. The officials will sort it out. We know for sure it's 5 personals. Camila Cardozo.
Take a look right here. The foul gets called on the arm, and just the ball slam, I think, might have been the technical that was called.
So now this with 120 is huge. Gina Auriemma was teed up just a few minutes ago of game time. Yep, and the technical foul is confirmed.
Well, once again, this is part of the luxury for South Carolina. They have got depth. So Cardozo goes out, and you're putting in Letitia Ami here, who has played really well and really solid for this Gamecocks team, and comfortable in the spotlight, comfortable with a lot of minutes.
Cardozo fouls out. She was 1 point off of tying her season high. 17 today, 18 that she put up as a season high earlier in the season against Memphis.
Well, she's coming off a game against Kentucky. She had 14 points. I mean, I think she just continues to get more comfortable. She's showing more dominance in where she was looking to be aggressive.
Edwards with the technical free throws. And splits the pair.
And this is where you start to wonder how much fatigue sets in for these individuals.
Yeah. We got the personal foul shots to take, and then the technical free throws. And UConn, that's why the 4 were coming. It could have been, possible 4 points there for the Huskies, and getting the ball here out of bounds.
And Aaliyah Edwards, 79% free throw shooter. Lou Lopez Seneschal, over a 90% free throw shooter. But these individuals have played heavy minutes here today.
74-66. Time is ticking. Uhas catches the pass, goes off the glass. Make it 74-68.
You look for a steal. If not, you're going to look to foul.
And Uhas is one of those that you were talking about, Sarah. Just 2 personals now. One of the ones that's capable of fouling. Again, Lopez Seneschal with 4 personals, Edwards with 4.
And that's the tough part when you are in this foul trouble, because you can't have Edwards foul out, you can't have Lopez Seneschal foul out, and the last thing you want is Nika Mule picking up that 4th foul.
Sends Boston to the free throw line.
In South Carolina, not a high volume or high percentage 3-point shooting team, so this is big. Opportunity to continue to extend this one. You're putting it at a 3-possession game.
And shooting above their season percentages as a team. As a season, they sit just below 70%. Boston splits the pair there. But today, just about 80% from the free throw line.
And UConn didn't go very quick the last possession, taking on some time here again.
Edwards for 2. And a quick timeout. It'll be the final timeout here for UConn. And a 2-possession game after that Edwards bucket.
What a play. Misdirection, using both sides of the floor. Nice screen here by Edwards. And the entire defense then focuses, but you see the space and real estate Aaliyah Edwards has to work with. And she's got a her on her. And that's where the factor and the difference comes in of how much Cardozo was playing a impact on what they could do on the inside. And overall for UConn, there is still time left. It's going to come down very much to a free throw game here for South Carolina.
So UConn out of timeouts. South Carolina still has 3 and sitting on a 5-point edge. Dawn Staley telling the local media in South Carolina, we've done a lot of things, but we still haven't won up in UConn. One of the things we'd like to accomplish, we beat them at home, we won on a neutral site, haven't won at Campbell or the XL Center. And you see the foul trouble here. So a quick correction, it's South Carolina. They got to sort this out. It's South Carolina who had called the timeout. So Dawn Staley and South Carolina have 2 timeouts left, and she's saying I called it in time to be able to advance it to half court. UConn still with its 1 timeout left. So the officials trying to get together here on this call. It'll be Johnson taking it out.
Interested to see if she's going to try and get into the hands of one of these individuals that forces Edwards to have to foul.
And look at just the space that South Carolina, they get it in bounds, but Cook's in trouble. And a foul call to stop the clock at 43.8.
Well, I think the discrepancy here is that the ball was I'm not sure the ball was actually passed in. Does Johnson just hand cook the ball? She hands cooked the ball and then I'm not sure there was a pass. I'm not sure that Johnson actually released the ball.
They'll call the personal foul on Nika Mule, her 4th. They got to hold Gino Auriemma back. Well, beyond the coach's box as he's approaching like mid-court.
Is he holding a water bottle again?
No, they won't. His assistants are experienced. They won't let him get anywhere near a water bottle. You know, he always I'm not sure the ball was actually passed in. Does Johnson just hand cook the ball? She hands cooked the ball and then I'm not sure there was a pass. I'm not sure that Johnson actually released the ball. They'll call the personal foul on Nika Mule, her 4th. They got to hold Gino Auriemma back. Well, beyond the coach's box as he's approaching like mid-court.
Is he holding a water bottle again?
No, they won't. His assistants are experienced. They won't let him get anywhere near a water bottle. You know, he did joke about spillage on the floor, but I don't think that's what he had. So let's see here.
Great camera angle. This is a handoff.
Yeah, it was a handoff. Wow, that's huge. And so now UConn calls its final timeout.
So you got a 7-point game instead of a 5-point game
with the ball.
UConn possession. And there was a few more seconds that had ticked off as well. So it's a major shift.
Yeah, it was all jammed up on the far sideline. But that is a missed call. That is a huge missed call here down the stretch. 43.8 left to play.
Well, at this point, that's not going to change. Connecticut Husky basketball, we saw an excellent play call in the last possession where they got a good look for Aaliyah Edwards.
And you see the upcoming schedule here for South Carolina. Your eyes immediately go to that matchup with LSU. LSU playing today as well, but the only 2 left undefeated teams here in the country. At Tennessee, that catches your eye as well. You know, you got an upcoming schedule. The beat is on in the Big East. A ranked Villanova team on the horizon for UConn.
And UConn, they had played 5 games in 12 days. Their last one was Wednesday, and that win over Providence had a couple days, but it doesn't get in that. This tough schedule against the top team in the country, and then Marquette, a Georgetown team, probably playing as well as any other team in the Big East.
Okay, coming out of that timeout, Huskies basketball. No timeouts left here for UConn. Again, 2 timeouts left for South Carolina. Both teams sitting in the bonus. Haas will inbound it from the sideline. UConn's got to go and go quickly. Haas for 3 from up top. Not there. Battle for the rebound. Edwards with the putback. And it's South Carolina that will call the timeout to advance it.
Another big-time play by Aaliyah Edwards in the discussion for the National Player of the Year, and you can see why. Looking for a 3-point shot, UConn gets it in to Dorka Haas, and watch Aaliyah Edwards just crashing in the entire UConn crew creating a little havoc there underneath the basket, and it got Aaliyah Edwards a clean lane for the grab as she's fading over, still gets it to go, and UConn is not going away.
We wondered what the two Aaliyahs would do here for us today. Aaliyah Boston, 26 points, 10 rebounds. Aaliyah Edwards matching her with the 25 points. And efficient, 10 of 13 shooting here for Edwards from the field. Boston also shooting 50%, but Edwards is the one that's been dealing with the foul trouble all day long.
So not playing quite as many minutes as she typically does, 28 so far on the game.
Yeah, usually it's 30 or more for these starters, these UConn starters, as Mule hustles over. Now she's done. That's foul number 5, but she was forced to stop the clock with 34.7.
And every individual in this starting lineup is incredibly important for UConn, but Nika Mule, the organizer, the one that runs things, big decision maker on the floor. And so in terms of what UConn continues to try and do and the plays that they're calling and what they're running, it's going to be a major factor without her here in the lineup.
It's Patterson who checks in for Mule. So a bigger lineup here for UConn without their point guard. An open opportunity. Cook misses the first.
Zai Cook a little bit off here tonight. She's impacted the game in a lot of ways, but just 7 points, 2 of 15 from the field.
4 of 6 now from the free throw line. Griffin across the timeline. And Amir here, whistle for the foul, stops the clock with just inside 30 seconds left
And
to
I
play.
really like that from UConn and Aubrey Griffin. You don't need a three-point shot. There's still time. This has turned into a free throw game. She's the one player that can attack, get downhill. Amir here picking up another foul, her 4th.
Griffin's a 79% free throw shooter coming into today. UConn has gone with 6 players all afternoon. And Griffin now with 14 points. Pressure coming here for the Huskies. And time is ticking. They're avoiding sending Boston back to the line. They get it to the hands of Beal, and their choice is to send Bree Beal to the free throw line. A 62% free throw shooter.
Well, and at some point, the only thing is that, understand, you want to play that game of who you want to send. Edwards didn't want to foul, but Lou Lopez Sancho, she's fouled out. And a decent amount of time came off the clock.
Lou Lopez Seneschal fouled out there with 19 points. Has played every single minute up to this point.
She's been needed every single minute, helping put UConn in the position they're in.
Inej Betancourt will check in for her first minutes. Just the 7th player for UConn today. Big free throws there for Beal. Splits it. South Carolina trying to chase it down. There's a loose ball to be had. It's going to be a jump ball. And it'll be South Carolina basketball.
And that's the only other big concern and issue with South Carolina. Do you want them to miss their free throws? Of course, but even worse is the way that they can offensive rebound. Coming up with second chance opportunities throughout the entirety of this game, 25 of those, 24 offensive rebounds. So you get the free throw miss on that second one, yet they still have possession.
Just an amazing stat. 25 offensive rebounds. That's above their average at about 18.5 that they get per game. The best rebounding team in the country. And Betancourt picks up her first. She can just enter the game. She's able to foul some of these South Carolina shooters. Johnson steps to the free throw line. And Johnson, as we had mentioned, started the second half for South Carolina. Has played heavy minutes. There's been the back and forth between Johnson and Fletcher at the point guard spot. And Griffin takes the contact. They'll count the bucket.
Another crucial basket for Aubrey Griffin. And she's turning the corner. Little bit of a stop there.
UConn's not done yet.
Let's see where she gets her, just coming across her body. So an opportunity to make this a one-possession game.
She does exactly that. 80-77.
You go for the steal. You still have to foul, though. With just under 11 seconds left if you're UConn. But anything you can do to try and disrupt South Carolina before they're able to get that in cleanly. It's a little bit more interesting.
Timeout for South Carolina. They are now out of timeouts. No timeouts for the Gamecocks, no timeouts for the Huskies. We've had some dramatic games between these two programs, these two teams. We go back to a flashback. The last meeting at UConn was back in 2021. If you remember, the shot clock about to expire, down by a single point. How about the Beckers bounce? Put up a long three-pointer that hit the back of the rim. Beckers scored 31, including 9 in overtime, and UConn beat South Carolina that year. It was a 1-versus-2 matchup.
I remember hearing you with that call, Lisa Byington. The Beckers bounce, of course. Things look very different in an empty arena as opposed to the XL Center being a sellout crowd here. Has been a tremendous environment, of course. Amazing to see Paige Beckers in a uniform on the floor as opposed to in the sweats on the bench.
Yeah, she is out for the season, as we know. But what an amazing stage. Just for women's basketball. I don't want to pigeonhole that, but for basketball across the country. You won't find a top 5 matchup, as I have mentioned, today on the men's side or the women's side, other than right here on Fox.
Well, you've got two icons as coaches, and you've got two programs who have just continued to find ways to build a foundation of the ultimate success.
Yeah, UConn's got a foul immediately, and Griffin does exactly that. 9.9 left to play in this game.
Dawn Saley was telling her redshirt freshman point guard, dribble, get out of that. Don't let her just come and foul you.
Raven Johnson's first time taking on UConn in her career. Player that had started the first 2 games of the season. Her minutes have gone up. The last 5 games, 6 points she's averaged, 57% from the field, but some big free throws to try to ice it here.
'21 high school Naismith and Women Basketball Coaches Association Player of the Year.
Edwards flips it up. That'll be the final shot and final play of the game. UConn, this crowd tried its best to upset the #1 team in the country. South Carolina survives a thriller, 81-77. They've now improved to 23-0 on the season and have tied a school record, 29 straight wins.
What a tremendous matchup here between these two teams. Give so much credit to both. Extraordinary environment.
I want to give thanks to our producer, Brad Weimer, our director, Mitch Riggin, our crew here at Fox, Sarah Kustok, Lisa Byington. Thank you for joining us. We send it out to Indianapolis for the PBA Bowling U.S. Open Finals after the break.